I worked in a prison in Iraq. We were training Iraqis to take over the prison. We had about 8 separate buildings known as K-spans. We had turned one over to the Iraqis just to see how they could handle it. They didn't do well. When we got the call, we were just about to get off a 12-hour shift. We were in the middle of a shift change, so both shifts were present. Apparently, the detainees thought this would be a confusing time for the guards, but instead, it meant we had double the manpower. Back to the cells. The Iraqis had lost the whole building. The detainees had started a riot, and one cell, which contained about 20 men, was able to break a hole in the cell and escape. Luckily, there are 2 more layers of razor-wide fence that they had to get through before freedom. We get a call saying they need help at the K-span. We grab tasers, riot shields, and flexi-cuffs and start running. Of the 2 layers of razor wire to freedom, we are now inside the same layer as about 100 escaped detainees. From outside the fences, other guard forces see us rushing into the riot and all scream, "Screw 'em up." It was a very charged situation. The run was about 500 yards. As I approached the K-span, I could see the Iraqi correctional officers, ICOs, in the rec room. They have makeshift weapons trying to defend themselves from escaped detainees, 2x4s and other debris from the building being destroyed. They were screwed. Detainees hated them, probably more so than Americans. They saw them as traitors, which, if I were in a detainee's shoes, I would too. And now it's 100 versus 10. We can only see the rec yard, not access it. We had to run around to the entrance and go through the building to get to it. Basically, there was a riot of 100 men between us and the ICOs. We had to get the riot under control before we can help them. I was about the 10th US Guard force to show up. We immediately ran inside the building. It was chaos. Inside the K-span, there are 20 cells, 5 on the left side, 5 on the right side, over 2 floors, 20 men per cell. Most cells weren't able to escape and were still inside, but one cell escaped and must have gotten keys as they opened about 4 more. All the cells on the lower right side were open, which is roughly 100 men. A single hallway ran the perimeter of the cells, so we sent a team of riot shields in each direction to corral the detainees back to their cells. One team went right, the other left. I went behind my buddy who had a shield, and I had a taser. As we walked the halls, there are detainees in cells next to us and above us. They have igloo coolers that they use for tea, and are filling them with whatever bodily fluids they can produce, and raining it down on us. The noise, the smell, the thunder of hundreds of men pounding on the cages next to us. Pieces of building and debris are crunching under our footsteps as we make our way back around to the left side. We are now on the back door of the building, which is the entrance to the rec yard. It was empty. The detainees must have realized there was no escape from the rec yard and came in after beating the shit out of the ICOs. I didn't see them either. We shut and locked the door and continued around the perimeter hallway. We now made it around the right side. Here we found all the detainees charging and getting ready to fight the other line of shielded guard force. The cells had a layer of plexiglass split shields that have now been shattered into swords, which the detainees are now wielding. The 2 teams of shields began to come together, forcing the detainees towards the center. Most of the detainees gave up and simply went right back to their cells, but about 20 were persistent and came charging from the shields where they were easily detained. We finally pushed the last of the fighters back through the hole in the cell they busted out of. These prisons were built really cheap. These cells didn't have bars. They just had a single layer of expanded metal grating as bars. They were able to beat the hole in using an old man's crutches. It was about 3 feet in diameter, and we got the detainees back in the cell, but now we had to go through and cuff them. My buddy and I were the first to crawl through the hole. He put his shield in first and followed behind it. There are about 10 to 15 men in there. Most of them had already given up and laid down, but 5 or so wanted to fight. I crawled through immediately behind my friend and instantly deployed my taser. Homie hit the ground. Funny thing about a taser is it can still tase you with the gun portion after I fired the leads. Only those leads still shock every time I pulled the trigger. So the poor bastard I got with the leads had to get shocked again and again every time I had to use the gun to tase one of his buddies. It didn't take long for more guard force to get in behind us, so the detainees gave up quickly. We cuffed them and began moving out, then went to clean the cocktail of bodily fluids over ourselves. This was all at the end of my 12-hour shift. What a day. The ICOs who originally lost the prison were okay. The detainees beat the hell out of them, but spared them. They didn't come back to work as far as I know.
Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.